Look, I know that time and tide waits for no man, but you couldn't give me like 5 more minutes with this show? Let's say goodbye to Benjamin Button. I am someone who, just for the nature of what I do over here and reviewing shows, I'm someone who sees a lot of theatre. And during my year, I don't have many slots to go back and enjoy shows multiple times. I'm too busy. I'm busy. I'm seeing things. So, very often, I don't really find myself going back to closing nights of shows. But last night, I went to the final West End performance of The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. And I felt like this was something I couldn't miss. Benjamin Button has been a show that I completely and utterly fell in love with. I first saw it at the Sort of Playhouse in 2023, and even there, I knew that this show was something. And to watch it grow and expand to what it has been an absolute joy. And I feel like I want to put a cap on that. I don't normally do videos like this. I think the only other time I've done this is when Come From Away closed. And that is literally my all-time favourite musical. So if you can kind of see the company that this show is going into with getting this type of video, you can see my general thoughts in this show. So today, I want to say goodbye to Benjamin Button. I'm going to speak through the show's journey, I'm going to look at all the different iterations of it, so I'm going to speak about my personal journey with the show, and some of the challenges that Benjamin Button faced along the way, and we're going to look towards the future. But if you haven't seen my face before, hi, I'm Ellie, I talk about theatre. I am the most chaotic theatre person on the internet, but I feel like with this subject matter, I'm going to be slightly more mellow today. I do reviews, I do discussions, I do versus brackets, rankings, game shows, and so much more. And if any of that sounds interesting to you, please consider hitting like and subscribe, it really helps me out the channel. But let's dive in to The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. If you somehow missed The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, I pity you. Like, seriously? Oh my god, I was telling everyone in my life for like a year to go and see The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. People were asking me, I went to job interviews, right? I went to job interviews and they were like, oh, you like theatre? What show should I see? And I was like, have you heard of Benjamin Button? Here you go. Here is my over-rambled response about Benjamin Button in this show. It really, really meant a lot to me. And it's really, really sad to have to now speak about it in past tense, because, yeah, the show is closed. They haven't announced any future life. There may be some that's coming soon, but there's been no real hints towards it, beyond whispers that people may or may not have heard. But this show, like many musicals, has been on a very long journey. A journey that started beyond this production. Throughout Benjamin Button's life, it's been workshopped through Southwark Playhouse. It started life as a fringe musical and has slowly grown and grown and grown into something massive. I wasn't fortunate enough to see the original Southwark Playhouse production, but being in the little studio space in that theatre, you can even tell now how much the show has grown, and how much care and love they have taken in crafting this musical. I first caught the show in Southwark Playhouse's other venue, Southwark Playhouse Elephant. It was my first time visiting that theatre, and oh boy, what a perfect show to start with. I remember being there and not quite expecting anything much. Because I think, admittedly, it is a rather wild concept for a musical. It does kind of just feel like, and from certain interviews with the creative team, yeah, this may just be the case, that they just went, oh, this concept is now in the public domain, let's make a musical out of it. But I think through everything that the show does, through all of the themes and the characters and the emotion behind it, they really have put so much heart into it. And I think a lot of that does come down to the identity of the show. It's so linked into home and time, and you can tell how much Jeffrey Compton and Darren Clark have both put so much of themselves into the show. Whether that be what they see home as, quite literally for Jeffrey Compton, because it's set in his hometown. It's set in Cornwall. It's set in the place that he knows and he loves. But I think that concept was a big hoop for people to jump over, and I'll speak about this in more depth when I speak about why I think certain people didn't go and see Benjamin Button. But it's a weird concept. It's strange. But it works because of the heart of it. It's such a different adaptation to anything that we've seen before, but what you need is there. It kind of just took the basic idea of man aging backwards and built from the ground up. It's kind of only Benjamin Button in name, in concept, because everything else feels wholly original here. This is sometimes why I'm a little bit annoyed by people being like, oh, everything is an adaptation now. Because, yeah, sure, if you're speaking about something like The Devil Wears Prada, which kind of in its nature is going to be very close to the film because of the audience that they're going for. But so many musicals that feel entirely original are based on things. There is no other musical that you can really point to that is like something like Come From Away, but that's based on a true story. There's nothing really that you can point to that you can go, that channels exactly what Benjamin Button does, but it's based on a book. I think a lot of people, and myself, I've done this in the past as well, and I still do it in certain cases. I think certain people have a narrow mind of what they like and dislike, and I think shows like Benjamin Button can really prove you wrong, and by lord, I was proved wrong about Benjamin Button. That production at Soho Playhouse just absolutely floored me. The performances from that entire cast, led by Jamie Parker, Molly Osborne, it being in that intimate, beautiful space that really allowed the show to soar. It was the perfect starting point, and I was immediately obsessed. Even with the changes that they've made now to improve the show, I was still like, this version is perfection. They could have transferred it with no changes, and I probably would have still clapped along and been like, this is the greatest musical of all time. But I think now they have perfected it. They have tightened it up. They did the work that was needed to it. Nothing huge, nothing massive, just tightening. And so we come to the West End transfer. We come to the Ambassadors version, where I was so ready. I remember it being announced so far in advance, like we still had like 5 shows to wait. I'm pretty sure they announced Benjamin Button before they announced Kathy and Stella, so I was like, are we gonna wait through shows that we don't even know what's going there? Why can't it just come sooner? But honestly, sometimes waiting is a good thing. Sometimes that little break is what you need. And so I was geared up and ready to watch this transfer. And I was given some amazing opportunities leading up to that show. Being able to be in that rehearsal room was such a cool experience. I'm sure if you are a huge fan of Benjamin Button, you may have seen my short form interviews that I did with John Dalglish, Claire Foster, and Jeffro and Darren, the writers. So lovely to sit down with them, especially knowing that is so annoying. Why are you doing this? Stop it. This is not fair. I'm trying to say about my love of this show, and you're ruining my lighting, son. I've had to completely reset up where I'm filming, so I'm not being half lit by the sun randomly. Anyway, where was I? Rehearsal room? Yeah, rehearsal room. It was so cool to, actually be there, interview these creatives on the show, meet the new cast members on a show that I already really, really loved. To see how they were adapting, how they were changing, what their approach was. And not just that, but also to, share how much I'm going to be a cheerleader of it, just like Amma says. Love this a lot. But another thing that we weren't really allowed to share very much of, because we were asked not to film it, was actually watching a little bit of rehearsals. So in that rehearsal room, they showed us I'm pretty sure they showed us from A Little Life all the way through to the end of A Matter of Time 1. So they showed us a pretty decent chunk of the show. I want to say they might have also shown us a little bit of the scene before Moon and the Sea, but I can't remember too much. I didn't film it, obviously. But this was over a year ago. Give me some space. Hold me some space, yeah? But the reason that they didn't want it to be filmed is because they were going into it like a proper rehearsal. They were still rehearsing around us. They were just giving us a glimpse into that creative process. And that was so cool. Like, I haven't really been able to think about this, but that was so fun. Because I think if you see Benjamin Bunning, you can really appreciate how complicated it is. Hell, even in their closing night speech, they said how many different variations of the show that they had because of covers being off, which I think they said was about 195 different variations of what the show can be, which, oh my god. But even, like, the base show is so complex, with all of those moving parts, with these boxes moving everywhere, with how they're setting things up with the instruments and playing that and the singing and the chorus element of it. There's so much that goes into that. And you could see these small little details that they were picking up through the direction. Like, Jeffro, as the director, would stop them and say, oh, you need to move that there, or like we slightly missed that cue there, or something's not quite gone into the right place. And you'd see how they all like adjust, how it's blocked out, how they're all leading each other. And you can see the details that they were refining in that space. And that was so cool. Because again, you get to really appreciate the work that has gone into this show. This is not an easy show. The amount of spreadsheets they must have for the different covers and everything. I don't know how that fits into all of their brains. But even the base show has so much love and care put into it. You got a photo with the cast. I don't know if I'll put that in here for memory's sake, but I guess this is basically like a time capsule of my journey with the show. It's very selfish, isn't it? It's very self-centered. But yeah, what a cool experience. What a fun day. And then to go further to watch the show open, to see that marquee. My lord, how good it looked at the ambassadors. That giant poster that I'm still kind of mad they stopped using, like, after opening night. Like, one of the best posters ever made for any West End show. Are you kidding me? Look at it. Gorgeous, stunning, amazing, spectacular.
Talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique.
It looks so good on that marquee. And honestly, I'm so sad that Paddington's marquee has taken so long to go up, because I'm now going to have to rank the Ambassador's marquee without Benjamin Button on it, and that feels wrong. That feels incredibly incorrect. It's going to go so far down in the ranking because the marquee looked so good. I remember, like, going and seeing the marquee, like, lit up at night for the first time as well, and just being like, oh, it's real. Oh, it's happening. Because that's also something I was like, I thought the posters at Southwark were okay, but they weren't really, like, I don't know, they were missing something. And what they were missing is being the greatest poster of all time, because we got that. Anyway, I think the next thing to speak about is probably opening night. I have the special opening night program, but it's in a box that I can't get to at the moment, so I can't show it off in this video. Whoops. Honestly, that was good vibes. That was good vibes. And I think especially knowing how good the show was, I was like, anticipating everyone else's response. Like, it didn't really matter what I thought. I was gonna love the show either way because I knew what it was before. I think the biggest kind of question marks were around how Claire and John would take up the lead roles. What their takes on Benjamin and Eloin would be and how they would differ from the previous ones I had seen. Oh my god, this sunbeam is so annoying. There we go, I think I fixed it. God, half of this video is just me battling with the lighting. Great. Opening night. I've shared my opinion on the show. I mean, you can go watch the review. I'm very positive on it. I think you can kind of tell that I enjoy this show a lot. But I think how they refined it was so perfect. The way that John and Claire play those roles is different, but so fitting. The ensemble kept getting tighter and tighter, and every time I go back to see it again, it got better and better and better. I went back again on the official opening night of the Pickled Crab because they opened a bar. I mean, honestly, let's just say, very quickly, thank the Lord, because the Ambassadors has always been one of the worst theatres for bar space. There is nowhere. If you try and go to the downstairs bars at the Ambassadors, you're like squeezed in. Or if you try and go upstairs, even worse. Even worse. It's in like a random room, like up the top. I'd never want to go into that bar ever. The ambassadors was like screaming for more bar space, and thankfully they got it, and in such a cool way with the opening of the Pickled Crab. This outdoor bar space completely themed to the show, with this wooden exterior, theming all around it, the logos, all the posters on the inside as well. So cool. So many amazing Easter eggs to the show, it being designed by Jeffro Compton as well, because he is a multi-hyphenate of the highest order, not only directing the show, writing the show, but also designing the set of the show, and then going on to design the bar space outside. And side note on this bar space, what are they going to do with it now? Because obviously those posters are going to go away, they're going to take down all like the theming of Benjamin Button, but like they need that outdoor bar space. They can't get rid of that. Every show in there is going to be hell if they get rid of that bar space. Like, by all means, retheme it. Retheme it to whoever comes in afterwards, or, like, make it look a bit more modern, or match the theatre a bit more, but please do not get rid of the pickled crab space. Don't do it. Don't do it. We need that overflow bar. We need the overflow bar. It is not going to work without the overflow bar space. I don't want to go back to the ambassadors without a space like the pickled crab. I don't think I can physically deal with it. There were so many other amazing moments being a big fan of Benjamin Button throughout the year. The Olivier's was so cool. That was a really tough year, and a year where it was a little bit unpredictable and we didn't know what was quite going to win. Benjamin Button came in with less nominations than Natasha B and the Great Comet of 1812, and honestly, part of me did consider the fact that maybe Great Comet would get it over it. But I'm glad that Benjamin Button managed to sweep a lot of the awards it was nominated for. It only lost out on one, which was the nomination for Claire Foster, which honestly, in an easier year, I think she would have definitely had that. And definitely deserved that award as well. Just very, very, very tough year. But I just think it's a bit of a shame that the Olivier's win didn't get them as much traction as it maybe could have done, as it's done for other small-scale shows in the past. Because we can also speak about some other times that I saw covers in the show. The amazing Benedict Salter, who's played Benjamin for a lot of the run, who has a really fantastic, nuanced take on Benjamin that is so different. That's so different. He honestly feels a lot older as well in Benjamin in a lot of cases. I really, really enjoyed it, and I was so glad that I got to catch him not only once, but twice. But Benjamin Button only got a year in the West End, and very quickly they announced closure. I wish I could have seen it more in the final weeks leading up to it, because, I mean, I've been busy. I've been seeing a lot of shows. It's why I really wish that we had just like a little bit more time with it, because I know that my calendar for the rest of the month is like empty, and I would have been able to see it more leading up to closing night, but I couldn't get there. And I was gutted, but thankfully I had that ticket to closing night, and I'm really glad I went. I don't think I've ever been to a show where I would take one step and step into somebody I know. Like, everyone was there. Everyone was there. So many lovely people said hello. So many friends were there as well. I was chatting people's ears off. It was just such a good vibe. It was such a lovely space to be in. And you could tell everyone there had such a love and enthusiasm for the show. And you could tell how bittersweet it was for so many people there. You know, speaking to other people who'd really fallen in love with the show, speaking to people who were there milling around, seeing people in cosplay as well, and just celebrating this show. The atmosphere in the room, absolutely electric. Oh my god. It's a show that I didn't actually realise how few applause moments there are. The official term is button moments, but there's only a handful, very similar to something like Come From Away, where you don't really give the audience much time to applaud, but this audience took advantage of those points. When She Looked at Me got like a solid 5-minute standing ovation. So much so that Jack Quarkston was trying to move the show along and just couldn't. Like, he kind of choked up a little bit. It was really sweet. There were some lovely speeches from Darren and Jeffro speaking about the life cycle of the show, thanking everyone. It was really, really sweet, really, really touching. But I think the biggest thing, for me personally, watching that final performance of Benjamin Button is how much it changed within the context. so much of the plot of Benjamin Button is about saying goodbye. It's about how time is finite and you make the most of what you've got. And oh my god, did it change so much of the meaning behind the words of this show when you're looking at it as this is the last time you're performing it, this is the last time you're seeing it. Those moments, those lines in Shipping Out Tonight, well, we've only got tonight, well, let's make the most of it, and oh lord, especially towards the end with Aloin's fate, and the song Time as well, just like, if there's anything that sums up my feelings on the show and on the fate of Benjamin Button, is that we don't get to choose how long we get with something, but you make the most of what you've got, and you've still got that little bit of time, even if it's fleeting and moving away, you've still got that. I think, honestly, as emotional and hard as it was, it's kind of good that Benjamin Button, within its text, prepared you for this. You know, it kind of prepared you for the end, and for a time where you would be watching the final performance. Just what a magical night. Before I finish out this video, I do want to focus on why maybe the show didn't click as well for audiences as maybe it should have done, and look to potential futures for the show as well. Like, what do I want it to achieve in the future? Where would I like to see it go? Looking long term as well, as like big ideas for revivals and everything, just to look at a bigger overview that's a little bit beyond my own experience with the show. When I've been speaking to a lot of people about Benjamin Button, I've cited one main reason for the show not really working. I'm going to save that to last, because I have a couple other things that I don't think massively helped the show. I think Benjamin Button is a show that bided its time, but had a couple of things just not quite click for it. The first thing is, it's a really tough time for theatre now on the whole. So many shows are only managing to come in for short runs. It's so hard to get a new long runner in the West End. There's so many surprise closures and big titans of the West End that we thought would run for years and years and years suddenly closing on us. And for a show that maybe needs a bit more time to click with an audience, for that word of mouth to really build up, it sometimes is just too little too late. There's a lot of peaks and valleys in theatre as well. Like, this time of year is normally some of the hardest times as well. I think it was also a little bit tough for the show with how it handled covers as well. Obviously, this is an actor muso show, and it's complicated. As I said, 195 variations depending on who is on and who is off, which meant that a lot of the time, illness meant that a lot of the shows had to be cut down. And thank God to this amazing ensemble team and the cover team backstage at Benjamin Button and their amazing brains for taking it all in to make sure that the show could still run and run and run. But obviously they had some difficulties with John's health partway through the run. I'm really glad that he managed to come back towards the end so he could actually finish out the show. But as sad as it is, and as much as that situation couldn't really be helped, I do think there might have been people who were biding their time a little bit and waiting for John to return to the show to go and see it, so they could see the Olivier winner play the role. But I'll tell you the biggest challenge that I faced personally, and I don't know if other people agree with this, when you were going around, if you were going around recommending Benjamin Button. The biggest problem with Benjamin Button, the musical, is nothing to do with Benjamin Button the musical, and it is entirely to do with Benjamin Button the film. Because every single time, almost every single time that I would go and tell someone, oh, there is this incredible musical that you need to go and see, they would go, oh, but I didn't like the film. Oh, but the film was awful. Why would I go see that? Oh, I didn't like the film. And I, every time, would have to go, no, it's not the film. And if I'm having to do that to spread the word of mouth, you've already got such a huge barrier against you. That was Benjamin Button's biggest problem. It's the title. because there was just this huge thing in the way. And if the show's title was a little bit different to differentiate the film and the musical, I think that would have been easier for it. Now, I think it's so sad to say that, because I think the title for Benjamin Button is so fitting. I honestly don't want it to change the title if it ever comes back. But I think when you're kind of facing something that's doing as much damage to the word of mouth of your show as that is, then you kind of have to change it. My suggestion would be just titling it something simpler like Button. Like, so just shorten it down, or just focusing on one thing or the other, just to make it a little bit more simpler, and to get away from the notion that this is an adaptation of the film rather than an adaptation of the book, despite the fact they all have the same name. But it's just anything that you can do from a marketing perspective to get yourself away from the Brad Pitt film that's damaging the reputation of literally one of the best musicals ever written. I fear that future productions of this musical, that they're going to learn the wrong lesson, and that they're not going to realize that that film is the problem behind marketing this musical. I'm worried that they're going to change the content of the show massively in order to try and make it sell more, rather than change the actual thing that's causing the problem here. Because I don't want Benjamin Button to go off to the States or something and lose what makes this show work. The problem is not the content, and by this I don't mean changing location. I wouldn't mind if they went off to another country and moved it from Cornwall to, I don't know, Germany or something, if they're going to Germany, or like moving it to a different seaside town. I don't know if Germany's landlocked. That might have been a really bad choice. No, great shout. If they went to America and swapped the towns. So, you know, in the second act, Benjamin ends up in America and he ends up in New Hampshire. It would be really funny if they went to America, took it to, like, off-Broadway or something, and swapped it so that the show was set in New Hampshire, but then, during that one scene, he travelled over to England and went to Cornwall, and that was, like, a fun little cultural exchange. Anyway, I don't mind them changing things like that. Like, readjusting some of the language or something and changing the location, but the material here is not the issue, and I worry that future productions are going to learn the wrong lesson. With that said, let's look towards the future, because I think it is going to be a little while till we see Benjamin Button again. I think this is a show that is really difficult to tour because of how actor-muso it is, and I feel like because it hasn't really massively clicked, it's not going to rush out on tour, which is so sad, because I think when Come From Away closed, that was difficult. That was really, really tough, but we knew that the tour was coming. We knew that we were only losing it for a little bit, and we would have that, like, last hurrah with the tour going on to celebrate the show again and to have it back, even if it's not in as accessible a form as a West End run. Well, accessible to me. It's not accessible to everyone. But, like, a constant ongoing run. But with Benjamin Button, we really don't know when we're going to see it again. It's not impossible to tour Benjamin Button, because Amelie did it. Amelie, the musical, had a very similar actor-muso style, it had a very similar cover system, but it is admittedly complicated. They struggled with it in the West End. I'm sure if they were ever going to tour Benjamin Button, it would likely be a simpler version, and maybe even a version where they don't have actor-muso in it, which I wouldn't necessarily be entirely mad at. I think what's honestly more likely is to see international productions. I can see this musical going to the States at some point soon. But I do think the Cornish setting of the show might be a bit jarring for people in the States if it did ever go to America. So I wouldn't be mad if they change the setting. But I do know a lot of Americans who have come over and absolutely loved Benjamin Button. And hey, if Operation Mincemeat can go over, I'm sure this can too. I think what's more likely is that we're gonna see a large gap for Benjamin Button. I think we could see it maybe go out to amateur companies. I could definitely see that happening in the next couple of years, where we see the rights be extended out to amateur dramatic societies so that a lot of other people can perform Benjamin Button in a similar way to Come From Away's rights being released, and now everyone everywhere is doing a production of Come From Away. But in terms of professional productions, I think we're going to wait a while. But I'd love an ambitious revival. I'd love to see some regional productions. I'd love to see them try and do this show at Regent's Park Open Air Theatre. I feel like this is a show that would work really well outdoors. Could you imagine, like, a very candlelit, like, lantern set for Benjamin Button done outside with the trees and the setting and the atmosphere of Regent's Park? Oh my god, I would live, but I feel like stuff like that's quite far away. As sad as it is for the UK and for England and for London and the West End, I do think it's going to be quite a while till we see Benjamin Button again. I hope it's not too long. I really don't. Because I love this show. I think it is one of the best musicals of the past decade. Maybe one of the best musicals of all time. Definitely one of my favourites of all time. So, will we see Benjamin Button back at some point? Well, I think anything's possible. But, what do you think? Share your love for Benjamin Button in the comments down below. Say goodbye to the show. You've had me ramble on for ages. It's now your turn to ramble in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, please consider hitting like and subscribe. It really helps me, it helps out the channel. Here's some links to some other videos on the screen right now, and a link to my Instagram if you'd like to give me a follow over there. And a huge thank you to our channel members who support everything I do over here. But that's it for me today, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Bye.